परिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं तं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Gurubhyo Namaha. We continue with chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of action and renunciation of action. Today we'll cover the essence of verses 12 and 13, the translation and commentary by Maharishi. Let us begin. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena phale sakto nipatyate. Next. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vasi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayanna. Here is the English translation of the verse number 12. He who is united with the divine, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains to lasting peace. He who is not united with the divine, who is spurred by desire, being attached to the fruit of action, is firmly bound. Let me read it again. He who is united with the divine, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains to lasting peace. He who is not united with the divine, who is spurred by desire, being attached to the fruit of action, is firmly bound. I'll go over the next verse when we start it. Now, in the last verse, the verse number 11, we saw the necessity of action for self-purification. And here Bhagavan has said, by means of the body, by the mind, by the intellect, and even by the senses alone, yogis, abandoning attachment, perform action for self-purification. Now here in verse number 12, Bhagavan is saying, he who is united with the divine, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains to lasting peace. And he who is not united with the divine, who is spurred by desire, being attached to the fruit of action, is firmly bound. So there are some important key words here or key phrases. The first is he who is united with the divine. Second is having abandoned the fruit of action, attains to lasting peace. And the third, he who is not united with the divine and who is spurred by desire. And the last, being attached to the fruit of action, is firmly bound. Now let us take these one by one. He who is united with the divine. The unity with the divine is found in three states: in self-consciousness, which is of transcendental nature; next, in cosmic consciousness, which includes both the absolute and the relative states of consciousness simultaneously. And this further means transcendental self-consciousness is together with the consciousness of the waking, dreaming and sleeping state. And next, we also see this unity with the divine in God consciousness, which holds together as one both the self and the field of activity. Here, gaining unity with the divine is the key to gaining freedom from the bondage of the fruits of action. And when one gains freedom from the bondage of the fruits of action, then this in turn is the key to gaining lasting peace. So again, there is no lasting peace when one does not have the freedom from the bondage of the fruits of action. And this cannot be gained without having unity with the divine. So again, this unity of the divine is attained during the self-consciousness, transcendental consciousness, during the cosmic consciousness and the God consciousness. Now let's look at the next phrase, having abandoned the fruit of action. Again, he who is united with the divine, having abandoned the fruit of action. So what does this mean? This expression runs parallel to the expression giving over all actions to the universal being, abandoning attachment. Again, giving over all actions to the universal being, abandoning attachment, is what is equivalent to having abandoned the fruit of action. And this was discussed in verse number 10, where Bhagavan is saying, he who acts giving over all actions to the universal being, abandoning attachment, is untouched by sin as a lotus leaf by water. Now let's look at the next phrase, attains to lasting peace. He who is united with the divine, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains to lasting peace. So again, here there are two important steps. One is being united with the divine, and second is abandoning the fruits of action to attain this lasting peace. So when one attains this lasting peace, this state, then the inner and outer phases of life both grow so strong that ultimately they become completely independent of each other. So here, the inner being is experienced as wholly separate from activity, while activity grows so strong as to become completely independent of being. So what we are seeing here is that the being and activity both rise to their full stature, and this happens in the state of lasting peace. Further, this is the state in which one lives in the divine and in the world simultaneously. So here, the activity is carried on spurred by nature. It is important to understand here that there is no spur of desire in the self, and it is enjoying the freedom from the bondage of action. So again, the self is free from the spur of desire, and it is enjoying the freedom from the bondage of action. And the activity on the outside is carried on spurred by the nature. Here Bhagavan says this is the ideal of sannyasa, life in complete detachment from the world of action. So this is the ideal of sannyasa, where he is completely detached from the world of action. And so it is this sannyasa that gives the state of lasting peace and gains the complete freedom or Jivan Mukta. Now let us look at the next sentence in this verse. He who is not united with the divine, who is spurred by desire, being attached to the fruit of action, is firmly bound. So one who is spurred by desire and is not established in the self or the divine, he remains attached to the fruits of action. He lacks the firmness, and because of this, he is firmly bound to the whole process of action from beginning to end. It's important to understand that such a person is firmly bound to the whole process of action from beginning to end. So here in this verse, Bhagavan is describing the state of one who is united with the divine and also of one who is not so united. It is further pointing out the mechanics of bondage when a man is not united with the self or the divine. So here, what is the actual bondage? It is the attachment to the fruits of action caused by desire. And this in turn is responsible for binding together the self and activity. So here it's important to understand that this bondage in essence is not real, for the self in its essential nature is eternally free and it can never be bound. So only when one has not realized his eternal free status, then a man feels attached to activity and therefore remains in bondage. Next, how he can come out of this bondage of desire is explained in the next verse. Here is the translation of verse number 13. Having renounced all action by the mind, the dweller in the body rests in happiness in the city of 9 gates, neither acting nor causing action to be done. I repeat again, having renounced all action by the mind, the dweller in the body rests in happiness in the city of 9 gates, neither acting nor causing actions to be done. Now, this verse explains how the mind can become a successful mediator and bring strength, grace and glory to action and freedom to life. We understand that mind is the link between the action and the actor. Here, the actor, the self. Again, mind is the link between the action and the actor or the self. As long as the mind is one-sided, subjected only to activity and without the direct influence of being, it fails to be a successful mediator. So again, when the mind does not have the direct influence of the being, then it fails to safeguard the freedom of the self from the influence of action. Further, this mind, which does not have the direct influence of the being, fails to safeguard action from the limitations of individuality. And so, that activity remains without the direct support of the almighty power of nature. So now we have seen how the mind fails to be a successful mediator, where it becomes one-sided and it is without the direct influence of being. So it fails to safeguard the freedom of the self, and it fails to safeguard the action from the limitations of individuality. And then further, it does not bring the direct support of the almighty power of nature to the action. Now we want to know how to come out of the bondage of desire and how this mind can become a successful mediator and bring this strength, grace and glory to action and freedom to life. So here the mind has to become as familiar with being as it is with activity. And for this to happen, it has first to come out of the field of activity and enter the sphere of being. So again, the mind has first to come out of the field of activity and enter the sphere of being. So when it is out of the field of action, then the mind finds itself as the self. Again, the mind finds itself as the self, completely unattached to activity. So again, when the mind finds itself as the self, ever remaining in the absolute state, in happiness, it remains as the silent witness of all events. Sakshi Kutastha. So again, this mind remains in happiness, being a silent witness of all events, and it is neither acting nor causing action to be done. Now let us go over the verse again. Having renounced all action by the mind, the dweller in the body rests in happiness in the city of 9 gates, neither acting nor causing action to be done. So here, the dweller in the body rests in happiness. And it is important to understand, happiness lies beyond the range of activity, where the self is untouched by external contacts. So once it has reached this state, The mind knows the truth of the relationship of the doer with his actions and with their fruits, which is brought out in the next verse. We will go over the next verse tomorrow. So for now, I will end here, and this is the essence of the verses 12 and 13. Translation and commentary by Maharishi. This is chapter 5 again, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of action and renunciation of action. Now I will add a few words. Here in the verse number 12, Yukta means one united to the Supreme Self. And Ayukta means one who is not united to the Self and runs after the material aspects in the world. Here we have seen that after being united with the Self or the Divine, this self-realized person still lives in his physical body, and he remains as a Sakshi or a dispassionate witness. In this verse, the 9 gates mentioned refer to the 9 apertures in the physical body, which are the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, genital organ and anus. So the Self or the Atma resides in the body like a person living in the city of 9 gates, and one who is self-realized and remaining as the Self becomes a witness to all activities taking place through these 9 apertures. Here, the knowledge of Bhagavadgita is very practical. Bhagavan, step by step, is telling us how to naturally rise in consciousness, naturally become self-sufficient, naturally gain the detachment, naturally to gain the renunciation, and naturally to be in freedom. So here Bhagavan is giving the empirical knowledge as also the experiential knowledge through the meditation. And this meditation is the art of transcendence. In addition, until we gain to this stage, this particular state of cosmic consciousness and God consciousness and the unity consciousness, everyone has to follow these certain principles that are given in this Sanatana Dharma, so that the evolution is naturally progressive and life is more fulfilled and enjoyed both in the outer world and in the inner experience. So it is important to remind again and again the 4 principles that are needed for a successful life or existence and for rapid evolution to being Jivan Mukta or experiencing eternal freedom. So let us go over these again. It is Sampurti, which is being integrated to your sadhana, integrated to this knowledge, and then in your activities you are integrated to your words and your commitments, and in the transcendental experience it is the Sampurti, gaining this state of fullness or the Purnatva. So one needs to have this Sampurti, this integrity in fullness, in totality. And the second is Shraddha, to be able to have this dedication and the authenticity, this Shraddha in doing the sadhana, this Shraddha, both the faith as well as the discipline to gain the self-knowledge and the self-experience, this Shraddha to know yourself, and in the outer world having this Shraddha to gain the peak possibilities and capabilities, because everyone needs this Shraddha in terms of speech, behavior, skills, education, and to develop the full potential. Now the next is the Upayanam, which also means responsibility, taking the responsibility to continue with this sadhana, to continue till you understand the truth of who you are and to know the source of who you are and the source of this existence. And in the outer world, taking the responsibility for all the actions around you and within you. In a sense, one should take the responsibility for all happenings in and around you, and taking the responsibility to bring completion to every project that is taken and every aspect of the life as an individual and also as a seeker. Now the next is Apyayanam. So here it means enriching. So you take the Sampurti or the integrity, the Shraddha or the discipline and the faith, and the Upayanam or the responsibility, and you continuously begin to enrich first yourself. That means bringing expansion within your own consciousness, bringing expansion and rising in your consciousness, and naturally gaining the cosmic state and the God consciousness, and naturally gaining this separation in the activity and you being the being. Then with this expansion, you continuously enrich everyone around you. You enrich yourself and the life and the whole of creation around you. Because here your activities naturally are to support the cosmos or the Loka Kalyanam. So here it is important for everyone to adhere to these 4 principles in order to be involved in the outward activity and also for the seeking. Further, these are spiritual principles, and when one practices or lives life by these principles, then great inner powers awake within oneself. So when one practices Sampurti or remains integrated in life, then one can gain Vak Shakti or the power of words becomes available. When you practice this tattva or the principle of Shraddha, the discipline and the faith to being established in the peak of one's capability, then one develops Manoshakti, that is the power of thoughts. So one's thinking becomes very powerful. So in the first one we saw there is the power of words, which is the Vak Shakti, and here we are seeing Manoshakti, the power of thinking becomes available. And when one practices this upayanam, or being responsible and responding to life from the truth of who you are, that means from the state of being, you being the being, then one gains the power of feeling or Prema Shakti. And because of this Prema Shakti, you naturally take responsibility for all the happenings in and around you, because you are connected to all the others as the self. You as the self sees everyone else as the extension of your own self. And finally, with the Apyayanam, you gain Atma Shakti, the power of the self alone. Being the self and having this Atma Shakti, the power of the Shakti, the power of the self, you have the ability to enrich everyone around you. You have the ability to help everyone's evolution, everyone's happiness, and everyone's progress. And this enriching happens both again in the spiritually as well as in the material gains. Finally, I would say it's important to live life in a simple way for a spiritual seeker. So try to simplify life. Don't keep accumulating too many material things. When the detachment comes, then you lose interest in all the material possessions. And this happens naturally. But until then, it is better to simplify life as much as possible and then be completely involved, totally involved with whatever you are doing. It is your spiritual sadhana, the spiritual practice of doing your meditation regularly, listening to this Bhagavadgita and the knowledge on a regular basis, and being involved with any activity that you take up in life, and being completely involved with your family or relationships. Here, involved also means that you be the self and you do whatever you have to do. So in a sense, that you as the self, you are not involved, although it seems that you are involved because you are doing everything in a responsible way. So your main goal, the only goal, is to establish this contact with the being, become self-realized, and then only you can attain the freedom. Freedom from the activity and freedom from the fruits of the action, which are the bondage. So I will end here and we will continue tomorrow. Jai Gurudev, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गीतामाहात्म्यम्। गीताशास्त्रमिदं पुण्यं यः पठेत् प्रयतः पुमान् विष्णोः पदमवाप्नोति भयशोकादिवर्जितः। गीताध्ययनशीलस्य प्राणायामपरस्य च नैव सन्ति हि पापानि पूर्वजन्मकृतानि च। मलनिर्मोचनं पुंसां जलस्नानं दिने दिने सकृद्गीताम्भसि स्नानं संसारमलनाशनम्। गीतासु गीता कर्तव्या किमन्यैः शास्त्रविस्तरैः व्यास्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखपद्माद्विनिसृता।